Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. Let's start from actually like 2 weeks ago. Let's talk about food and food tech and how Italians are really like eager to combine tech, food, digital marketing, next gen marketing, and so on and so forth. So what you mentioned 2 weeks ago, it was very interesting because we had essentially like two big rounds, fairly big rounds. Well, one is disclosed, the other one is undisclosed, but definitely interesting. So the first one is MiScusi, fresh pasta restaurant chain, raising 10 million euros from MIP, Picus, Kitchen Fund, Amundi, and other private investor. And on the same week, pretty much, PokeHouse basically allowing some new capital from Red Circle Investments, which is essentially the investment company of Renzo Rosso, which is the owner of Diesel. So yeah, very interesting because we've been monitoring a little bit how the food tech has been moving. The chain are, food tech, food founders really love the chain model. They really like sort of the appeal to the new generation. And I believe both MiScusi and PokeHouse are definitely like some of the most well-known chains that are doing a great job, both in terms of development and in terms of fundraise. To be honest with you, I mean, PokeHouse has been on pretty much like a big, interesting ramp of investments, and that was we mentioned it a few times, and now is MiScusi. So very, very interesting. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm kind of amused that both the investments were announced in the same week. So there is this team of same market in the same week. I agree that I can't say this is a deep tech or software game. So this is really a consumer food type of play, where actually MiScusi, from the article, from what they say, they try to employ technology in order to empower each restaurant in the chain, the network, and this is absolutely fine and nice. Also from the article, the metrics are interesting. If you read it, 20 million in last year, 20 million of revenues, and each and every restaurant is EBITDA positive.
I totally agree with you. Like the EBITDA positive part is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. That definitely like some serious financial discipline going on. If every unit is that's scalable. That's perfectly scalable then for each single unit. So that's super awesome for sure.
Yep.
Looking at yeah.
Sorry about that. And I was taking a look at the PokeHouse on Crunchbase actually to take a look to the series of historical rounds. So they started in 2020 with the first one announced, 5 million, then 20 million in 2021, and then this undisclosed round this year. But knowing Red Circle, I believe that the amount, the capital invested, is probably along the lines of 20, 30 million, whatever at least. So I think again, scale up capital for the chain. And PokeHouse is present also in abroad, right?
Yes.
Strong presence, US, for example.
100%. So what is interesting is also that essentially in I think a little more than 5 years they reached about 100 million in revenue with 160 location to date. So that's pretty impressive actually. And I mean, it's again talking about metrics, talking about interesting KPIs. Definitely like a great play on that.
Yeah, blitzscaling. Yeah, even though they acquired the chain in the US at least one acquisition that they had in the background, but still, nice fit.
Yeah, awesome. So moving on, talking about Kampaay, event tech startup announcing a 7.3 million round from 360 Capital and SG Company and Gellify. So Kampaay also, we've seen it grown in the past maybe 2 to 3 years. I think they adjusted the business model just to basically confront the new trends and especially pandemic, because they started as event, purely event, mostly organizer. But then they incorporated digital element. And what is interesting is that they are part of essentially this SG company, which is a very interesting ensemble of different companies working in the events / digital branding space. This is a public company, so it's listed, and it has a very, very interesting model, trying to build this conglomerate of events / brand, which are very much functional to each other. So I thought it was pretty unique.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is an interesting play, and it makes sense considering what Kampaay does. From the website of SG, it seems that there are a lot of synergies in the offering. So the question that arises is this some kind of preemptive exit route, or it is again just a pure growth play, growth investment? So time will tell.
No, for sure. Awesome. All right, moving on to last week, just to focus and going back to one of the main topic of the year, AI. So Axelera AI, Netherlands-based startup designing microprocessing units for edge AI, raised an additional $23 million in a Series A round led by CDP and Verve Venture. So here we have a bunch of different interesting elements. So first of all, edge AI, that's also a very interesting concept. And for the listener, I think it's maybe worth just spend a moment on that. So my understanding is that AI can happen either in cloud or next to the data point, the data entry point. And what is interesting is that what we think of AI, maybe like ChatGPT and so on, is cloud-based. Edge AI is basically working on physical device that actually contain software and algorithm that allow to process data with AI, of course, and models straight next to the point where the data is collected. So these are several elements which are interesting, I think, because first of all, there are like different advantages, especially on different application when it comes to edge AI. So talk about manufacturing application of AI straight in certain like physical location. That's definitely like an advantage because it's very, very fast response moment, and that definitely like
think about real-time machine vision. Think about that.
100%. Yes. So that kind of bypass all the sort of connectivity problems that can actually create like latency issue. And I thought it was very interesting. The CEO is Italian. That's another interesting part. They're like in the Netherlands, and CDP is like a big player over there. So that's pretty interesting as well. And the final element is Verve. So Verve is basically an aggregation of different investors. And also it's like a super group of investor that is investing in AI. So that's also quite interesting. It's the first time I hear about the group. So I think interesting deal, definitely interesting, very interesting elements.
Yeah. And this is actually a continuation of the previous round because Axelera announced a Series A round of $27 million back in October last year. So this is an extension of that round. And that's another interesting news. Like in 7 months, they completed the 50 million Series A round.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the AI is not stopping. Now is pervasive. It's not only algorithm. It's not only like machine learning models. It's becoming hardware, and it's not just that. It's infrastructure, and we talked about like hardware that actually is gonna support those models. Quantum computing to be like one of the first sort of suspects, but not only that. So a whole industry is being created. And was created and is kind of improving and growing because of the widespread diffusion of this technology. So that's we're witnessing something cool.
Yeah, the other funny thing is that they announced the deal in the same week that Nvidia had their quarterly earnings call, and when the news about the unexpected bump in revenues into the market, like the Nvidia stock price like bumped. I don't remember how much, like 26%. So the joke was Nvidia grew an entire Intel in a few hours, an entire Intel.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how hot is the hardware market in AI right now. So perfect timing.
Awesome. I think we're gonna see these kind of deals like more and more, like specialty like hardware for like specialty application, and of course like focus on AI. So that's definitely just the beginning. So that's definitely like something to monitor. Very interesting. All right. Let's quickly talk about Silver Lake acquiring a minority stake in Team System for the modic amount of $660 million. So Nick, I mean, Silver Lake is a giant. Is like one of the behemoth of the tech industry, one of the most active and biggest investor out there in the world, I would say. So what's your thinking on this?
Well, it's an interesting piece of news. It says something about what's going on with Team System. So this is that already has two private equity investors on board. One of the two, I believe that one of the two sold some shares to Silver Lake to get it on board, and this is quite normal in the market. So private equity funds tend to acquire and sell participation to one each other. And Silver Lake has been active in Italy. This is not the first operation they do on an Italian company. If I'm not wrong, Facile.it has been another target for them. So let me check before I say something stupid.
Yeah, I mean the question is really whether global player in the venture ecosystem are looking into Italy with opportunistically, and they're trying to sort of like agnostically take some interesting deals here and there. We've seen back in the days like Tiger Global coming in, love it or hate it, it's a big player, came to Italy, did something, it's helped someone grow, so that's good. Silver Lake is the same, so maybe also that's I don't know if there is a pattern there, but definitely people are watching, and opportunities are here as well.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. We do have some players with strong presence in the market or international presence. Team System, I believe, is also active in Spain and with very good economics. So I'm not surprised that there are international players that actually do invest or acquire Italian companies to continue building the market. So it says nothing unexpected. We could probably see even more operations, but I mean that's okay. The part of the market where we need to work quite a bit is on the startup side. So mature companies, mature tech companies are there. We have them. They're doing well.
So there is hope. We always talk about how past the Series B, it's a big problem for Italian companies. So maybe there are people watching, and past that point, opportunities are starting to present themselves. So maybe that's another signal.
Yeah, I hope. Silver Lake is well beyond the Series B, Series C, Series D type of investments. But let's see.
Awesome.
To say.
All right, let's talk about some corporate venture capital here. So let's talk about Angelini Ventures investing $6 million in a US-based company called Cadence Neuroscience, which is working basically in anti-epilepsy solutions. Angelini has been one of the big CVC players in the past, I would say, 2 years. They ramped up their team. They defined the strategy really precisely. They hire people. It was very interesting to see the company sort of build this sort of mechanism. And in the latest deal is very also pretty interesting, because Angelini invested not only directly off balance sheet in this company, and here maybe we can talk about the structure of why and what, but that's pretty cool. They also built in the US essentially a specific venture fund together with a company called Lumira Ventures, which essentially invest in North American companies in the health tech space. So they built this like a corporate VC fund together, and then in this deal in particular, they invested from both sides, and that's a very interesting strategy because companies usually go one or the other path. Some companies do also both. So it's either off balance sheet sort of investing. Or building a fund, or in this case is actually both. So I think it's a very sophisticated way to handling this problem. So definitely kudos to them. It's an awesome example.
Yeah, I think the Angelini Ventures fund had a bumpy starting point, so it took some time for them to set up the vehicle, but it seems that it is starting to move. So this is one, probably not the first that I remember, but one of the first investments that they have announcing with the new new investment strategy.
Nice. Yeah, definitely love the collaboration. It's called the Angelini Lumira Biosense Fund, and that's basically the kind of the name tells all about the proposition for sure. So very, very interesting. All right, moving on to Stellantis, I think also another great example. Well, the guys are, of course, some of the best and best connected in the market. So Stellantis Venture, investing in Lighten, tunable three-dimensional graphene startup. So totally in line with the sort of the industry. So they're building essentially a graphene technology that allows to have, well, in the future, like more efficient batteries. So the idea is that graphene is a great conductor, and it's usually 2D, but when it's layered, so it becomes 3D, that increases exponentially the conductivity of electricity. So very, very strategic move from the part of Stellantis in what will be the future of electrified cars and whatnot. So they're really building everything around it in a way, so they can be in the right space, both with suppliers and probably with product. So also great job on their side, I would say.
Yeah. Funny thing, both the Stellantis Ventures and Angelini Ventures size as funds is 300 million. They're like, I don't know, looking at each other. How big are you? Where are you investing?
Plus, I think there is also like another, well, they probably read the literature also. I think there is a few studies showing how, above 200 million, returns are below average and so on and so forth. So people are, especially now, trying to raise not past 200 million. So the big guys, the big venture firms, what they're trying to do is to do multiple funds, but not going past the 250 million like in per fund, I would say. So. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, is it working?
I don't know, but in that case, I mean, they also have a strategic interest in the investments, right? So, I mean, 100%. They are for sure aiming for a financial return, that's for sure. But they also have the strategic component, so they can probably give up some IRR in order to have some more ROI on their parent company. So.
100%. All right, and some closing remarks. Let's talk about our friend at CDP opening and launching Style IT, Fashion Tech Accelerator. I think that's number 19 or 20 at this point, maybe around this number, and we need to check. But definitely like another great occasion for actually fashion tech. Fashion tech has been moving. Big fashion brand have been watching closely, like startups. There is some accelerators working in fashion, particularly in Milan. Well, just to mention a few. So, I mean, probably great move. Also in line with the country. We're a fashion nation, and manufacturers and designers are here, and it makes perfect sense.
Yep. The play is always the same. So CDP is funding the accelerator and looking for partners. So there will be external providers of acceleration services, and then there will be industrial players cooperating with the fund. with the accelerator.
Awesome.
So perfectly in line with the strategy.
Awesome. All right, Nick. I think that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jack. It was a pleasure as usual. Have a great day. Take care. Have a great week.